Welcome to today's Qualified at the Intersection. So I have been planning to do this piece for a while, but then, 10 years happened in a week and a half. So I wanted to come back to the way race is the dominant factor, race and ethnicity is the dominant factor at play here, and the restoration of white supremacy, and yet the media broadly keeps ignoring it. But that being said, PBS NewsHour, which has been unleashed since they're no longer part of the federal government, has been doing some really, really good reporting, but I know not everybody sees it or gets it. But I want to play this piece from PBS News because I think it's super important. And why it's important is that as we gear up for the midterms, you still have people like Elizabeth Warren, who got on television the other day and was talking to, I think, Dana Bash on CNN. And yes, she was hitting affordability. Affordability is an important issue. But when asked about cultural issues, she just pivoted like Democrats tend to do, like a robot. Affordability. Let me tell you something. Elizabeth Warren, Democrat caucus, the Democrat committee, those who do ads, if you just go all in on affordability and do not recognize, address, or correct for the rush toward a restoration of white supremacy, you're on a fool's errand. Because it is not just affordability that is driving not just Trump voters, but many voters. What is driving them is they feel they are tantalizingly close to a restoration of white supremacy, which they wrongly think is going to be good for them and good for the country. And explaining and helping white people in particular know that white supremacy actually does not benefit them in the ways they think it does is very important. And if you don't understand that this administration is not driven by fear of the Epstein files, this administration is not driven by a fear of public opinion. They don't care about the polls. This administration is driven by the desire to reinstate white supremacy in this country. So we're going to take a look at this PBS piece. It's like 2 hours or 2 hours, Lord. It's 2 minutes and about 44 seconds. And I'll be back at the end to talk about what you see. So take a look.
Just weeks into the new year, the Trump administration has surged ICE agents to American cities, overthrown a foreign head of state, threatened a military takeover of Greenland, and rewritten the history of January 6th. As Liz Landers reports, the administration has rolled out a campaign across departments that draws on images and ideas borrowed from right-wing and white nationalist circles.
From the U.S. Department of Labor, a message. One homeland, one people, one heritage. Remember who you are, American. It's a video that appears to be part of a campaign now ramping up to sell the administration's efforts to the American people. For example, calling on potential ICE recruits to, quote, defend the homeland from outsiders while featuring heroic images of white men, often from a bygone era. Then there's this tweet from Friday, an ICE recruitment ad featuring the turn of phrase, "We'll have our home again," plastered over an image of a man on horseback and a stealth bomber flying in the distance. That's a reference to the song "We'll Have Our Home Again," a white supremacist anthem favored by the Proud Boys.
Oh my God, we'll have our home again. By God, we'll have our home.
Another image tells supporters to, quote, trust the plan, the slogan of the right-wing conspiracy theory known as QAnon, which posits there's a global cabal of pedophiles and deep state actors trafficking children and that Trump is fighting it. It's also a movement heavily involved in the insurrection on January 6, 2021. Last week, the Trump administration published a new website rewriting that history to blame Democrats for security failures that day and to justify the president's pardoning of more than 1,500 defendants. Weighing in on another era, last week President Trump also sat for a lengthy interview with the New York Times. He was asked about the civil rights movement and told reporters that while the landmark legislation did some good things, he said, quote, it also hurt a lot of people that deserve to go to a college or deserve to get a job were unable to get a job. So it was a reverse discrimination. A day later, Trump supporter and billionaire Elon Musk wrote 100 above this message on X, which read in part, quote, if white men become a minority, we will be slaughtered. White solidarity is the only way to survive. That's known as the Great Replacement Theory, popular in white nationalist circles, that falsely claims the white population is being intentionally replaced by non-whites.
All right, welcome back. So PBS NewsHour really got into showing how they use white nationalist iconography, these symbols and images, songs. And, you have Elon Musk, they showed there. He's now back in the fold of the administration after he says there needs to be white solidarity. And you notice the white fear. If we don't come together, they're going to slaughter us. Who's going to slaughter you? Nobody wants to slaughter white people. People just want to go to work, get promotions, and live their lives. They're not interested in slaughtering you. You are interested in slaughtering people. So you think everybody wants to slaughter. But, the thing here is that this administration is driven by a white supremacist narrative. This is the only major report that I found that pulled together Donald Trump in the New York Times saying the civil rights movement is damaging to white people. People didn't get jobs and weren't able to go to school because of Black people. That's insane. That's not true. That assumes that every single position should be filled by white people first because they deserve it. And then we should get whatever's left over if they decide, if they're full, if they've eaten, gorged at the table and they decide to throw us some scraps. But otherwise, anything we get that they don't get is a crime against humanity. And I've written about this in my book, Qualified, that freedom itself is what was abhorrent to white people. When Black people got freedom after the Civil War, our freedom was what was terrorizing. Our freedom was offensive, and our freedom has been offensive ever since then. And so when you have people in the Democratic Party afraid to talk about cultural issues, thinking, again, like fools, that financial issues, let me tell you something. Things were financially much better for most people under Joe Biden than they are now. So they didn't vote for the economy, stupid. They voted for white supremacy. And anybody who doesn't understand that isn't going to know how to run against that. And running against that means pulling back the covers, illuminating the ways that this is dividing our country, destroying us internationally, destroying prospects. The Atlantic, I believe it is, has an excellent report about the hidden costs. It's not really hidden, but Donald Trump's federal cuts have put people out of their homes, caused people to have to go into their 401ks, destroyed entire industries. The people who do GPS are down. They don't even have enough people there. This is the message. And all of this is driven. What is all of this driven by? A desire to restore a white supremacist state. And that is costing us lives. American citizen has been murdered. They're going to surge military attorneys to cities and states to put us in jail. And they're talking about Iran. This is nuts. And we have the commercials to show the cost of this, right? So I have to say that the unwillingness of many white liberals to step into the culture war, we've been in a culture war. Donald Trump has won. Donald Trump didn't win on the economy. They keep saying that. Donald Trump won on a race-based culture war, a gender-based culture war. They keep asking people about trans athletes. What you need to say when they ask you about trans athletes is that trans youth make up less than 0.01% of the population, and that having rules around fairness and competitive areas of participation should not end up in discriminatory policies for a small minority group. But that small minority group seem to be the first people attacked when there are regimes that are trying to destroy democracy. And pivot to that if you want to pivot to something, but don't pivot back to affordability. You need to talk about these things and not run away from these things. And that's what I see a lot of white liberals doing, the Ezra Kleins, the folks who are like Elizabeth Warren. And then I'm sure we're going to get what the hell is that woman who comes out every couple, Jill Stein will pop up again like a cicada at some point, and all these so-called liberals F the system. Look, white supremacy is on the march. And if these midterms don't address it, it's going to be our last chance to ever address it.